Did I make a major mistake by checking here the river? I think I did, but let's check with Rangeconverter if that is true. So in this hand I decided to open it up with ace queen offsuit in the cutoff. The big blind calls, now the flop comes 9-9-4. Big blind checks and I decide to bet one big blind. Let's first check if that was the correct play. To check this, we're gonna make use of the flop quick select. It was a single raise pot, open it up in the cutoff and the big blind called. Now the flop was 9-9-4, 9 of hearts, 9 of spades and 4 of diamonds. Now we can see in the bottom left, we can see what range the big blind defends. As you can see, it's super wide, but what you see as well is that it is capped. He's not having the aces, the kings, the queens, the jacks. Reason being is at this stack size, 25 big blinds, the big blind will very often 3-bet or rejam those hands. What you can see as well that our cutoff range is also pretty wide. Reason being is that our equity realization is fairly high at the stack depth. And we do have the aces, kings, queens, jacks and so on. So because of that reason, we have an equity advantage, which you can see here. We've got 62.8% equity on this board. And what you can see as well is that our equity realization is much higher playing here in position. So what we can see is that the big blind wants to check here at a very high frequency, which is exactly what he did. So because our equity and our equity realization is so much higher, we can actually bet our whole range. And GTO also wants to use a very small sizing, only one big blind. Reason being is that it allows us to bet way more hands and we still accomplish to get all his air to fold. Unfortunately, we did not get him to fold, but he check raises us. When we check Rangeconverter, we can see when we bet only one big blind, that the big blind wants to raise at a very high frequency. It wants to raise 30% of the time. Why does the big blind want to check raise so much? Well, like we said, we as the cutoff come to the flop with a very wide range and we are betting our whole range. So we also have a lot of hands that have completely nothing on this board. So with his 4x, he wants to check raise here for protection, denying a lot of equity. He wants to raise his 9x for value, and he can also raise a lot of bluffs that just push out a lot of equity. Now the question is, how do we respond to the check raise from the big blind? As you can see, we are continuing at a very high frequency, only folding our bottom 20% of hands. Reason being is that we still have a lot of equity versus very wide and aggressive check raising range. So for this reason, I decide to call with my ace queen offsuit on the flop, and now the turn comes an 8 of hearts and the big blind continues here with a 4.2 big blind bet. To check the solution for this, we will also let the cutoff call here in Rangeconverter and we select the turn, which is an 8 of hearts. What you can see is that the big blind wants to continue betting 53% of the time, as we still have a lot of air in our range. So 4x wants to continue betting here for protection mainly, 8x wants to start betting for protection but also for value against our 4x and the smaller pairs, and 9x also wants to continue betting here for value, and then he can mix in some bluffs. What we see is that in the cutoff we want to fold another 25% of hands. What we see as well is that we want to start jamming some hands for value to make sure we do not miss value on the river against 4x and against weaker 8x. What we see as well is that we still want to call 61% of hands, including the ace queen offsuit, which is exactly what I did. And now the river comes a jack. Big blind decides to check, and now the question is, should we indeed jam the river, or did I make the right play by checking here? To check this in Rangeconverter, we are first gonna let the cutoff call here, and then we're gonna select the river, which is a jack of diamonds. What we can see is that the big blind wants to check at a very high frequency, 74% of the time, because 4x and 8x do not have a value bet here anymore, and he also wants to check some 9x to make sure that his checking range is well protected. Because if he doesn't do that, we can go absolutely crazy on the river because his checking range would be way too weak. To check what we should do here with the ace queen offsuit on the river, we are gonna let the big blind check, and now we will let Rangeconverter decide what we should do. What we see is that GTO wants to jam here 58% of the time, including the ace queen offsuit, except for the ace queen offsuit with the queen of hearts, where we block more of his snap folding range. I think in reality we can jam even more hands because people are not checking enough good hands. They will be going straight for value, and this would allow us to jam more jack x for value, to jam the 10s for value, because I think his range will be more weighted towards 4x, towards 8x, and that he doesn't have enough 9x and straights in his range to balance it. Unfortunately, I made the mistake of checking the river here, and he indeed had 4x, but now thanks to Rangeconverter, I know that next time I should just be jamming in the spot. If you also want to study your hands just like this, then make sure to sign up for Range Pro. Make sure to subscribe so you don't miss any of the other reviews, and I'll see you in the next one.